Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 13th of February, 2022. Coming up the Crusty podcast, episode 163, Viva La Fringe. More sidelines, more political garbage, and some actual reports from people that have been on site in Ottawa and Windsor. All that more coming up. Please stick around.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues, and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Viva La Fringe, episode 163, the outcome and the fallout, or the new beginnings coming up with the recent protests that are happening in Ottawa and other cities around the country, and how it's catching on in the States, how it's catching on in Europe, how it's catching on in New Zealand and Australia. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Welcome, everybody, to this episode. Yes. So it's been a couple of weeks since my last episode talking about the truckers coming. Now the truckers are there. Now people just don't know what to do. Oh, my goodness, eh? Look what's going on in our world today. People are standing up for what they think is right, and I think it's about goddamn time. So like I say, Viva La Fringe. Why not? Right? Our own prime minister was quoted saying it's just a fringe minority with unacceptable views. And I mentioned that in my last episode. What is actually deemed as unacceptable views? Now, you and I can both agree, okay, my audience out there, people listening and watching right now, unacceptable views in regards to racism and segregation. That's unacceptable. Okay. Being sexist, that's unacceptable. Just being rotten to people is blatantly unacceptable. And yet, when we look at our federal government and how they've acted and reacted the past couple of years, how acceptable have these officials been when it comes to lockdowns and getting the jab and people losing their jobs? And when they talk about the economy, how acceptable was their actions or is their actions? Now, wait. Yeah, not too acceptable. So when you have an elected official who basically tells the nation of people that make decisions for themselves and call them racist and misogynist and anti-vaxxers, it puts things in perspective. Now, when I look at all three parties, okay, when I'm looking at all three parties, how they've handled this pandemic, okay, now I can understand the fear and trying to conquer the unknown. But when you actually sit back and look on how every province has dealt with it, how every leader has dealt with it, the past 2 years has been a real shit show in regards to the economy, people's well-being, people's longevity. Because when you look at the statistics, and I don't have all the stats on me, man, I just can't pull them out of my ass for you right now. But opioid addiction has gone through the roof. Opioid deaths have gone through the roof. Attempted suicides have gone through the roof. Depression, drinking, domestic abuse has gone through the roof. And that's just on both sides of the spectrum, ladies and gentlemen. That's just not a man beating up on his wife or his girlfriend. There's two sides to that story, too. And the government has the audacity to sit there and say that all these people who are protesting are misogynists and racists and sexist and homophobes and xenophobes, whatever the trendy buzzword of the day is. Okay. And you and I both know, and to my American listeners and my European listeners alike too, I think we have an understanding of what needs to be done. People have had enough. And regardless of how much lip service that our federal government gives to the masses or the provincial governments give to the masses, okay, enough is enough. Now, what gets me is that every time I've watched Parliament and I've watched Question Period, yes, I'm guilty, ladies and gentlemen. I watch Question Period on CTV on occasion, and I watch the CPAC channel that's on our satellite to get insight into Parliament, to see what some of these clowns are really talking about and trying to how they, barter our freedoms. And there's a lot of rhetoric going back and forth. Now, I personally give hats off to Candace Bergen for the way she's standing up and Pierre Poilievre. But what gets me is during these past 2 years, How come they never had the cojones to stand up during the first wave or second wave or third and fourth waves? Hmm? Something to think about, right? Something to think about there. Where were these individuals standing up for your shop, your neighbor's store, Carl and Karen's shop down the road, little Billy and little June's organized sports? This Board of Education standing up and saying, hey, enough of these mask mandates. Where were the individuals then? Okay. So, regardless of what the science said or what Dr. Tam, I look like a man, said, okay, we weren't seeing a lot of action. Now, do I agree with the protests? Yes, I personally agree. If you have something to say, protest by any means. But when you look how the mainstream media has played this, has played the whole thing, CBC and CTV, respectively, calling a lot of these truck drivers domestic terrorists, calling these individuals racist and misogynists just because somebody saw one Nazi flag or a couple of Confederate flags. Now, where is the insight and the investigative instinct to find those individuals that carried said flags? No, they focused more on someone putting a flag on Terry Fox and putting a hat on the Terry Fox statue. And which brings me to, I stand corrected, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the war memorial. Some of the pictures and footage that I saw of people urinating and defecating on the memorial, that happened last Remembrance Day. So, unlike some national reporters, I stand corrected on that. And I want to give a special shout out there to the veterans that are on scene who have stood on guard there the whole time. Veterans and truck drivers and people alike, like-minded individuals who stood there to make sure that nothing was desecrated, nothing was destroyed. So my salute to you, ladies and gentlemen, and a big round of applause for your efforts too. And also a good salute to the men and women that served, that are on guard for thee down there as we speak right now. Now, the past couple of weeks have been tough on everybody. The uncertainties, no one's sure, and then the speculation constantly coming from the mainstream media. But in the description, I'll add some links of people that are in Ground Zero in Ottawa and Windsor who have reported on what's been going on, who've been telling you, viewers on the internet, and whether you're shy of mainstream or you absorb mainstream media, there's other points of view out there where you can pick and choose what you want to hear and see. But needless to say, if you're in the quest for the truth of what's going on, I highly suggest you look online and look at the individuals that I will post in my description in this video. Okay. People of the likes of Greg Wycliffe, a comedian, a very, very talented individual. I've had talks with him over the past year in regards to lockdowns and mandates and all this other garbage. And he's in Ground Zero. My friend Jilly Davis, who has an interview with Diverge Media. And I'm going to read one of her excerpts there shortly, too, on some of the things that Justin has said. And I'm going to add a link to Bill Maher here, a classical liberal comedian. I like his show. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a guilty pleasure. My apologies, but I don't mind the Bill Maher show there he has on HBO, Real Time with Bill Maher. I enjoy it, even though we might see different points of view. But he's a classical liberal, live and let live. And he's got something very interesting to say about our beloved prime minister. So I'll get to that momentarily. But back to my point. Viva Le Fringe. It's getting bigger. Okay. So it's not just a fringe minority causing it. And you can sit and speculate how much the economy is going to suffer and how this is. And that's all part of it. Because where was the outrage when 2 years ago in February, 2 years ago this time, where they had all the railway blockades for the Wet'suwet'en issues when it comes to the pipeline? Where was the outrage then? Right? When people were literally leaving debris and try to sabotage railway tracks. Where was the police presence there? They were there, but were any threats of arrest happening? There's some rebel footage in regards to that too, where a lot of people weren't doing much or saying much. And the federal government at that time, of course, the Liberal government, was constantly sitting there saying, well, we understand this and they understand that. And yet they're dead against this protest. So you're seeing the contrast, right? I'll be right back after this.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And just a reminder too, ladies and gentlemen, if you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe and share this all over your media platforms too. And if you want to reach out and talk to me, by all means, just look at the banner at the bottom of the page here. You can find me at crustybcanuck67@gmail.com. Send me an email. Send me your thoughts. Contact me too. And I actually have a mailing address in my description. So if you want to send me some cool swagger or send me some stuff or send me some hate mail or loving mail, whatever you want to do, by all means, please. Anyway, carrying on with episode 163, Viva La Fringe, right? I'm all for free speech, regardless of how you feel or what your opinion is on what's going on in our country today. Let them protest, because every piece of footage I have seen from mainstream media, as well as independent outlets like Rebel, True North, Greg Wycliffe, Daniel Boardman, Diverge Media, and some personal friends of mine who have been on site at Ground Zero talking and mixing with all these people of all colors and creeds. There isn't any violence going on. There isn't any racial rhetoric going on. There's no segregation going on. There's a sense of unity. Okay. I haven't seen or felt that sense of unity since Canada got gold in 2010, Sidney Crosby's magical goal against the Americans in Vancouver. There was a sense of unity that was fantastic. And I felt similar unity in 2002 when Canada got gold in Salt Lake City, I believe. Yeah. So it's funny how it takes a hockey game to unite the country. Now it's taking blue collar workers to unite the country, which brings me to the point of how Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh, the NDP, part of the opposition in our beloved parliament, House of the Commons, House of the People, oh my, sits there and likes to diagnose this whole thing as a terrorist plot too. Now, what I understand of the NDP was they were supposed to be a party that represents unions, represents the workers, the health and welfare of people that work around the clock and look after things. People that keep your lights on, people that do deliver your groceries, like truck drivers and stock clerks alike, and logistics, a lot of truck drivers, people who drive snowplows, people who look after the roads, a lot of qualified individuals that have licenses upon licenses to drive said vehicles. But then now he's sitting there talking through his ass, talking about more racism and more prejudice. What gets me is that these individuals are promoting said prejudice themselves. They're looking down on people. Okay, is that what a leader should do, ladies and gentlemen? Look down on his or her minions and go, oh, surf and turf. Oh, yes, do this for me. Oh, exciting. No, it's representing the people. Now, it was so convenient how Mr. Trudeau all of a sudden had his 3 shots and then he got COVID because he was associated with, because of his son, or he got COVID. We just don't know what the story is in that just yet. But he was out for 5 days because he apparently had, the COVID. But he had plenty of time to go out and do a press conference and call everybody a bigot and racist and full of hate speech and hate mongers when he was still missing the point. Okay. So he's not representing the country. And I was watching Question Period this morning and how some of these so-called journalists weighing in saying, oh, stop this nonsense, this silliness. Oh, this silliness. Silliness, eh? Where were you talking about the silliness last summer when I think 47 or 50 churches were set ablaze? Where was the nonsense when people were taking down statues and spray painting it and literally defecating and pissing on figures of our history? Where was the nonsense then? Oh, it's understandable. Yeah, well, it's understandable to speak your mind. It's understandable to be pissed. But when you go out of your way to destroy something because of history, are you really learning anything from that? Do you really think you're doing the world a favor by tearing down a figurehead from something that happened 100 years ago? Right? I've posed this question to some SJWs who have weighed in on my profile and sent me some nasty emails. And I've asked them and I said, are you going to make things better by doing that? Regardless of how you personally feel about this figure in history? Right? Sir John A. Macdonald was not a great human being. but he brought Confederation and he put Canada together, regardless of his bigotry or his prejudice. I'd like to see you name me a politician from the 1860s that had no prejudice, that had no bigotry. There might have been a few, but they make an impact. Now, I'm not saying you have to make an impact by having prejudiced views, but let's look at society that time, how people were judged. You were judged in your height, you were judged in your gender, you were judged based on your influence, you were judged based on your faith. And that went for all walks of life, too. You were judged if you're Irish or Scottish. You were judged if you're English. You were judged if you're Catholic or Protestant. You were judged if you're an atheist. You were judged here. You're judged there. So those constant judgments and prejudices over and over again, like a bad cycle in the laundry. But tearing down a statue because you're pissed off because you might have a history degree, or a revised history degree based on what they teach in universities now, that doesn't make you a hero. That makes you a thug. It makes you a hoodlum. Right? Now, I'm not a big fan of the British monarchy. Honestly, I'm not. But out of tradition and out of respect, I'm sure the Queen's a lovely lady, and I'm sure her predecessors or her ancestors had their quirks too. But when I watched the footage last year of individuals tearing down Queen Victoria, thinking they're standing and honoring the memory, no, you're not. You're just destroying property. And for what? For what? Yeah, you're pissed. I get it. I'm pissed at things too. I'm pissed at Veterans Affairs and how they treated fellow veterans. I'm pissed at the federal government and how they pissed on veterans. Okay. I'm pissed at the federal government on how they treat working class people. But I'm not going to go to Ottawa and start throwing rocks at the windows. Right. I'm not going to go and deface any statue of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, even though the man was a putz. He was a schmuck. He was a communist sympathizer. Right. Think about that. It's all couth. It's all about your character, right? It's about setting a better effing fucking example.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. And if you like and hear what you see, please click like, subscribe, and share this all around. And my YouTube fans out there, please click the bell for notifications when something new comes your way. And please, I cannot stress enough, double check your subscription just in case you're shadow banned or you're kicked off my page. Resubscribe, all that good stuff, and share this all around your social media platforms. You can also find me on Wimkin, Brightian, and Rumble too, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I load up my videos and podcasts there as well, too. So check me out at Rumble, Brightian, and Wimkin. I'll leave links in the description for you to follow. And if you do feel like donating, there's links and information there, too. Donate what you can. And please check out my shop at Customized Girl. I got hats, T-shirts, shorts, gitch, swimsuits, paraphernalia, all with the Crusty Canuck logo on it. So get yourself some Crusty Canuck swagger today. Anyway, like I said, I have a thing here from Bill Maher from the Real Time. And this is what he said about Justin Trudeau. Okay. I'll just cue it up here. Yeah, there we go. Where did I put it there? There we are. Right here. Yeah. So I'll just cue it up, and then you can decide, ladies and gentlemen. You can decide from there what he says about this.
Justin Trudeau. What? You're laughing, but Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. Then I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. He was,
nice
or
hair,
maybe this is
nice
September,
teeth.
but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them. Now you do sound like Hitler.
That was.
And recently he talked about them holding unacceptable views.
Wow. I'm surprised to hear that Trudeau said those things.
You didn't see the blackface? I mean, no, I'm kidding about that. I'm not. I mean, that was not a good look for him. But I mean, come on. I mean, that's, I think, what gets under people's skin. Justin.
See, that's the thing. A lot of people didn't believe when I saw that in French television. A lot of people didn't believe that he said it until I actually put it on my page, and people were asking me, "Oh my God, he said that?" And I understand a bit of French, so yeah, he did. He did say that. Unacceptable views. What exactly is acceptable views again, ladies and gentlemen? What are acceptable views? If you walk this magic line, you agree with everything what the Liberal Party does, and you will have a good day. Yes, you will or nothing be happy. Klaus, you're such a hero, according to Justin Trudeau. But that gives you insight too. And what I appreciate though the most is I don't have any footage here, but I never was a big Fox News fan. Never was. I just never got into it. That and CNN. No offense to my American viewers and listeners out there. I never really got into Fox. But the past couple of months have been really interesting with Fox News. Tucker Carlson, he's a class act, ladies and gentlemen. Real class act. And he's educated. He's intelligent. You know, he's a family man. And he speaks his mind. And that's what we need in mainstream media. It doesn't matter if you agree with the left or the right or the center or the north or the south. You just have to listen. And that's what we're missing. Now, my friend Julie Davis was on Diverge Media there recently, an up-and-coming independent media outlet. And she is quite the brilliant writer, a fantastic writer, educated individual. And she wrote something, an article that will probably be coming out shortly. But she wrote a little blurb here, and she just basically paraphrased for me. But I'm going to read some of her work, if I can here. Bear with me there, ladies and gentlemen. This is from an upcoming article that she wrote. Here it is. Yeah. So basically, the tale of two blockade protests. Okay. Now I'm reading this from my cell phone. I'm sorry I didn't print out for you. If you want me to print this out, send me an email or send me a message in the comment, and I'll do that for you. Of course, with Jilly's permission, of course. Anyway, tale of two blockade protests. This is a critical moment for our country and for our future. On all sides, people are upset and frustrated. I get it. It's understandable because this is about things that matter: rights and livelihoods, the rule of law, and our democracy. That was in 2020. Justin said all this. So when I refer to 2020, it'll be in regards to the railway blockades that happened. Okay. To those who are feeling the consequences of the blockades and protests, I know that you are going through difficult times. Rest assured that our government is working hard to find a solution. Priority is to resolve this situation peacefully, also protect the rule of law in our country. We will always defend that principle. Another quote from 2020. We are creating a space for peaceful, honest dialogue with willing partners. We need to resolve this through dialogue and mutual respect. Another 2020 quote from Mr. Potato Head, Mr. Pert Plus. Okay. Blockades are hurting Canadians. They are endangering jobs. They're threats to our economy and public safety. The blockades are hurting small businesses and neighborhoods. At the border, they're impacting trade, supply chains, and manufacturing. The people these blockades are hurting are everyday families, auto assembly workers, farmers, truckers, blue-collar Canadians. Now, this is this year. He was saying that. Okay. Well, blockades aren't acceptable, and they have to end for the good of all Canadians. Okay. Ontario's announcement this morning is responsible and necessary. We'll continue working alongside all partners, get the situation under control for the security of the people and the economy. These blockades cannot continue. So make no mistake, the border cannot and will not remain closed. Everything is on the table because this unlawful activity has to end, and it will end. This is what he said, this year. So you see the contrast there. Now, the railway blockades blocked fuel and supply chains, just the same as what the trucks have doing. Now, truck drivers aren't trying to damage the highways. They're not trying to hurt anybody. They are peaceful. And what gets me is that when you see the contrast of all these people together singing, dancing, having a good time in Ottawa and Windsor and other cities across the country, starting in the States too, in Australia, in New Zealand, in France, right? Are you seeing riots? Are you seeing anything being smashed and destroyed? Are you seeing anything being set ablaze? You see anyone try to sabotage said road or said highway? No, you're not. And with COVID being so prevalent, and the famous
Omicron variant.
Why aren't they emphasizing people should be social distancing and wearing masks? Where's all the Carls and Karens clutching their pearls and saying, you're not social distancing, you're not wearing your mask, what's wrong with you? Because they know it's a farce, ladies and gentlemen. It is a bloody effing farce. I'll read more of this shortly, but it just goes to show where the loyalties lie when it comes to Canada. Okay. Now, as far as I remember, Ellis Ross, First People's MP out of British Columbia, I think he's Liberal, I'm not sure, knows for a fact that roughly 85-90% of the Wet'suwet'en chiefs up in that area said yes to a pipeline. So that means the majority of the persons that live there, that have their livelihoods there and enjoy their space, enjoy their freedom up there, said yes to the LNG project. Now, these other projects that have come and gone, i.e. the Tides Foundation, the Make Way Foundation, the Clintons Foundation, whether I'm being factual or not, there's ties leading to them to stop production of Canadian oil and gas or to stop it from going to market. So who sides on who, right? What side is promoting whatever? Because Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Environment Minister himself now, and of course, Catherine McKenna's got to weigh in and call people racist again too. We're firm, staunch believers of keeping our oil and our resources in the ground, while people can take advantage of our economy and tell us what to do, when to wipe, when to pick our nose. Interesting trade-off. But I'll read more of these statements that my friend Jilly gave me there too. So let's see here. Where do I leave off? Okay. It may come to no surprise to many, the first statements were Justin Trudeau's response to the Wet'suwet'en Railway, like I just said there too. In 2020, Justin Trudeau asked for patience and dialogue with the organizers of the protest. In 2022, he's vilifying the participants, organized supporters, and refusing to speak with anyone involved in the protest. So that's the thing. He never went out and spoke to a lot of the First Nations that were actually protesting, the legitimate First Nations, not just the white liberals who identify. Okay. Did he go out and actually try to speak to these individuals? He might have related to them, but he never really spoke to them. Try to come up with some kind of conclusion. And what's he done with the truckers here too? Now, I know the Conservatives wrote Pierre Poilievre, Damien Keurig, Michael Cooper, representatives for their ridings respectively, went out handing coffee, talking to people, getting to know people. That's the way you should do it. When I was an NCO, I got to know my troops. That goes to the job, right? Got to know my 2IC, and I got to know my men and women. That's how it goes. That's what you should do. And it doesn't matter if you're an officer. It doesn't matter if you're an NCO. You get up there and you do it. Okay? You do it. You relate to your people. That's all you have to do. And you watch their backs. So it doesn't matter what riding they're from or what their party support is, what their loyalties are lying. They're there with you. You're there with them. You're there to represent them. But we're not seeing that. So the more and more I watch the mainstream media and get my own points of view, the more and more I'm compelled to watch independent media like The Rebel, True North, Daniel Boardman, Greg Wycliffe, Diverge Media, my friend Jilly, and other friends who are actually on the ground witnessing the so-called phenomenon of these anti-lockdown mandates. And so be it. Okay? They're not smashing property. They're not destroying anything. They're not spray painting statues and knocking them down and hooting and hollering because they got rid of some guy that's been dead for the past 150 years. Okay? They're standing up for something that's right. And they are standing up for clean water. They're standing up for clean air. They're standing up for the ability to go out and go to work and do your thing. Right? And what gets me is a lot of this political class likes to constantly walk around thinking their shit don't stink. The problem is they haven't enough people rub their face in it. And if you keep backing people into corners, that just might happen.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
Well, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Back at episode 163 of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Viva Le Fringe. Yes, why not? Why not? Long live the fringe. Long live the fringe. Long live the disenchanting opinions. Long live the unacceptable views. Okay? Here's my views. I want you, my listeners, my viewers, fans, non-fans, people who have just discovered. I want you to be prosperous, okay, by your own means, okay? I want you to thrive. Why? Because that's the way we can do it in a democracy. I want you to get a good job. I want you to feel good. Hug your loved one. I want you to do all these wonderful things. I don't care who you love. Love hard, love well. I don't care what you love. Love hard, love well. Okay? I don't care what you do in your spare time. I don't care if you're a gun owner. I don't care if you collect stamps. Knock yourself out. Have fun doing it. Do it well. I don't care if Bob and Steve get married. I don't care if June and Ed get married. I don't care if all four of them get married the same day. Knock yourselves out, folks. Have some fun. Love hard, love well. Right? It's that simple. But these past 2 years have been really hard on everybody. You get one government official up here who is not elected, who may have a background in medicine, telling you, don't travel, stay indoors. And yet said individual will be traveling here. Another politician's caught in Bahamas. Another one's caught in Ireland. Another one's caught in Hawaii. So the whole do as I say, not as I do, gone. Forget that. So when you look at these guys in Ottawa, sure, they're honking their horns. There's a lot of exhaust going around. And the mainstream media likes to say, oh, some businesses are being compromised because they're afraid to open. Are they afraid to open? Or were they told not to open? Because I know a couple of business owners in this province that got it up the chuff royally because they were forced to close. Big difference, right? And there wasn't exhaust fumes or horns harassing them, right? It was health bureaucrats and police officers giving them a hard time. Now, I'm not disenfranchising police officers. There's a few people in my life that work for the RCMP and the OPP, respectively, okay? And they do a good job. They put food on their table, look after their families just the same. And they've actually come to me and said, hey, I'm not sure about this, Crusty. What do I do? Well, if you got morals, you got a good conscience, you will do the right thing, right? If you see someone commit a crime, then you're obligated to arrest that individual and detain him as in accordance with the law, right? Because we're all equal under the law, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how many SJWs or revisionist historians like to beg to differ. And that's another fucking problem I have with some of these teachers out there too, are telling these 18-year-olds and 20 years old how oppressed everything is, right? If it's so oppressive, why do you get yourself a nice fucking paycheck every 2 goddamn weeks? Do the math, right? We are getting to a point where things are getting brighter, ladies and gentlemen. Things are getting really bright, right? People are starting to look and people are starting to listen. People are starting to question. Okay. Now, there may be a few shitheads in this convoy, but there were a few shitheads in the railway blockades too, right? There are a few shitheads who do protest here and there, but you're not going to judge the whole class because Billy swore, right? If Billy swears in class, does that mean you punish the whole class or do you punish Billy? Right? I've actually asked a coworker this question once before, and he told me, well, you punish the whole class. And I'm like, why? Right? Or to teach Billy a lesson. So you want to teach Billy a lesson, then you make him stay indoors while the class goes out in recess and you make him write something. I will not swear in class again. Or you give him a shit job, or you give him a shit detail or something. You give him shit. When you punish the whole class, group punishment, what's that going to do to Billy later on? Right? So the whole class is going to beat on Billy, right? So every time Billy screws up, whole class beats on Billy. And then what? 2 months, 6 months later, Billy becomes a serial killer. Something to think about, right? That's my psychology lesson for today, ladies and gentlemen. But there have been cases of that in our history, right? Something to think about. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 13th of February, 2022. Thank you all again for the kind emails I've received the past couple of days and the thumbs up in the comments. And like I say, if you do like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this all around your social media networks. Get the algorithm going. And to my YouTube fans out there, please click the bell for notifications when new content comes your way. And double check your subscriptions too, ladies and gentlemen, if you can. Right? I think things are looking really, really good, really good. You know, part of my stuttering here, but I'm excited and I'm anxious at the same time too to see more. But don't put up with the garbage. Don't put up with the BS. Think for yourselves and look for the answers. They're out there. I'll leave links in my description to some of the independent outlets that have been covering the events in Ottawa and Windsor, and to my buddy there, Greg Wycliffe, who put on a great video talking with people on scene right there, right at the horse's mouth, per se, and I'll leave a video that my friend Jilly did with Diverge Media too, so you can look and listen, because she was on scene for a few hours there last Wednesday, seeing for herself exactly what was going on, and she had nothing to say but good things. So you, my audience out there, to my American friends, please check it out. And once again, click like, subscribe, share this all around. You can find me on Rumble, Brighteen, and Wimkin. And I'm loading on Amazon and Spotify too. I'm not too worried about the Joe Rogan issue because Joe does his own thing, and that's good for him. And don't worry about Neil and all the other old hippies, because it just goes to prove that they're hypocrites, ladies and gentlemen. Right? It's like the old adage, stand for nothing, you fall for anything. Like I say, it's been the 13th of February, 2022. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so get your loved one some nice flowers and candy. Give him or her a kiss. Hug your kids. Love your loved ones. Do what you can to help each other out in these trying times. But there is light. Light is coming out of this manufactured darkness. And like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity merit wins the day. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Well, smack my ass and call me Judy.